What's up, IBT family? Today we have your start, sits, and sleepers for week number 10 of the fantasy football season. Let's make the most of this Feel Good Friday. It's the IBT podcast coming at you.
Cause I've been in tune, out of touch, coming off the bench, trying to shake the funk, check a stat line, see who's up, that over, under, hit too clutch.
And I'm trying to avoid getting carried away with the jet sweet, sleeping on a trick play, predicting all of my moves like they seen every play. And so I'm running it back, head down, get out of my way. And it's for the law with only one thing to do. I guess I'll say a prayer and put it all on the line for you. What they don't know, something they haven't seen. I find a gap on the screen and hit them right in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it.
Just one thing to say, yeah, what they don't know, something they haven't seen. I'm off that mean Joe Green, it got me fading in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is Feel Good Friday, November 10th. The holidays and the fantasy football playoffs are sneaking up on us. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast. We are making the most of week number 10. I am Seth Woolcock, and I just got done bumping some Avril Lavigne before this program, and I am joined by my co-host, a man who's not technically Avril Lavigne, but he is the co-owner of Pros with Joe's, Green Screens Media, and also a few children down in the great state of Texas, Eric Romoff. What's up, Eric? How are we doing today, man?
I'm doing good. In addition to those things, also certified skater boy in the Avril Lavigne era, right? So definitely, I feel like that song was written about like a 14-year-old version of myself.
There we go. Also joining us today, guys, we are joined by a special guest from across the pond. He's the host of Dynasty Hotseat, Mags. Mags, how are we doing today, man? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I am absolutely fired up to be here. You know, Dynasty Hotseat is a certified inferno, but, you know, I'm just hoping I won't make things too complicated between you two.
Hey, no, we need a buffer.
I said Avril Lavigne joke.
Why you got to do that?
That's pretty good, right?
Why you got to go and do that?
We need a buffer for sure, my man. Eric has some ludicrous takes sometimes, so I'm glad you're here. Before we jump into the show and what we have on deck for the IBT family, I got to ask two questions. One, are fish and chips that good in England? And two, do you guys drink warm ass beer? Is that true?
So, well, I'm from Ireland myself.
Oh, okay, okay.
I live in Scotland. I'll frequent England every now and again.
Okay.
You get some good fish and chips. It's kind of like everywhere you go. Like if you go touristy, you know, you're gonna have a bad time. But you go looking for the right stuff, you can get some good fish and chips. And man, yeah, some people love the warm beer. I'm a Guinness man myself. A Guinness, you know, it has to be cold. That's the thing. That's very, very underrated thing about Guinness. You get a cold Guinness, that's a good time.
Okay, fair enough. I appreciate the insight there because I heard some horror stories from some friends going across the pond, and they're like, everyone drinks warm beer here. I don't know what to do. So glad to know that's not maybe the 100% the case.
Yeah, no, it's a tourist trap. Like a lot of tourists come over and they're like, oh, Big Ben's Tavern, let's go there. No, avoid. Like, no.
Good to know. And guys, we are absolutely loaded here on this Feel Good Friday. We got our Thursday night football recap where we won't spend a lot of time on, but we'll touch on it here in front and center. Then we're going to get some starts and sits with Jay Felicio, and then some sure thing sleepers to end out the program here. And I'm seeing some questions in the chat. I'm seeing some of the IBT family. What's up, Dave? Thanks so much for making time to us today, man. And then Derek. What's up, Derek? Appreciate you being back here with us as well, my friend. We'll get to your guys' questions in just a little bit, so keep them coming. And let's jump into the Thursday night football recap of what might be the worst slate of primetime games I've ever seen in my fucking life. But let's get to it. Let's recap it in front center.
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between.
I thought you come to the place where you have some fun. Ain't gotta worry about knowing not what it means. People come and give me another, cause the night is young. At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and center.
Front and center, let's talk about the game that was last night. Bears 16, Panthers 13. And this is hard to make us feel thankful that football is back, I feel like, guys. We got this game. We got Jets and Raiders Sunday night football, Broncos on Monday night football against the Bills. And last night, it was kind of a battle of mediocre quarterbacks. Teams combined for 508 yards, 9 for 30 on third down, somehow no turnovers. Eric, what were your initial thoughts on this?
Man, you're coming in here with some strong Al Michaels energy, just not happy about these slate of games. Like at the end of the day, right? Like it's still football, right? Like when we're in the middle of the summer, like watching highlight or marble racing or God forbid baseball, like we would kill for one of these games, right? So yeah, they're ugly. I mean, I think there was a point in this game where it went like 20 consecutive series with either a punt or a field goal, right? Yeah. But it's still NFL football. I'm still thankful that it's here for it. And I think you should check your attitude, right? The storylines around this game are kind of minimal, right? Like it's almost more bad news than it is good news, right?
Yeah.
Like Chuba Hubbard has taken his backfield from Miles Sanders. Donta Foreman looks great. He's going to be a problem for people that were holding out hope for Khalil Herbert or that Roschon Johnson might become a thing. The good news is that Tyson Bagent loves Cole Kmet. That's something that we can hang our hat on, right? That's something that's different about this offense with him under center. But, this love for Cole Kmet and the funnel of passes going his way and DJ Moore's way are going for like 6 air yards a pop, right? Just like super dink and dunk, slow plodding offense, right? So not the prettiest game, but I will take football any night of the week.
I want to get to our shower beers, gentlemen, and this is usually when we kick off the weekend with some good vibes, some players who surprised us, had big performances on Thursday night. There was only one, and you talked about it, Eric, that really I felt like deserved a shower beer here, and was Donta Foreman, 17.9 PPR points on the day for him, 21 for 80 and 1 on the ground. Mags, how did you feel about Foreman, and what do you think the outlook is once we get Herbert back in this mix? Is it just going to be a mess for fantasy managers?
I mean, Donta Foreman's the kind of guy that, like, if you play a dynasty fantasy football, like me, he should be right up there with your highest owned players in dynasty fantasy football, because you should have picked him off the waiver wire a long time ago, really. So Foreman's a guy that you're delighted to plug in and play. He does well everywhere he goes. Like, he was good last year as well. People forget he was good the year before that as well. He's the only player in the NFL that I can think of who plays running back that has successfully, I think we could say, come back from an Achilles injury. I mean, some people might say Cam Akers was okay before he did the other one, but I think Foreman's the only example of someone that's actually come back, and it took a couple of years for him to get there. So I think Foreman's a safe bet for your teams. I don't really see anyone wrestling that job off him.
Wow, okay.
That being said, I don't see him being like the nailed-on starter next year. I think they might start to move towards like bringing in Herbert or, Johnson as well. But I think Foreman has this job really pretty much locked in, because he's been, DJ Moore aside, he's been probably the best player on that offense.
It's crazy to think about that too, because a couple weeks ago when Foreman was up on the waiver wire, we didn't have a lot of people running to go get him. Everyone wanted Roschon, us included. And I think Foreman kind of went by the wayside, and some people got some really sneaky waiver wire additions there with Foreman. So congrats to him. Also, congrats to the Bears. I did shit on them a couple weeks ago for trading for Montez Sweat when he was a free agent. They signed him to that 4-year, $98 million deal, comes out, has 8 pressures on the night. So good for them. It was good to see that. And I also just want to say, Kirk Herbstreit, what the fuck's up, man? Because Tyson Bagent, they showed his last 10 games on the side on the side rail there in the game last night. My college, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, IUP, baby, was 2 of his last 5 games on the list twice, and he didn't even mention it. Slippery Rock got the shout out. Our in-state rivals, Colorado School of Mines, got the shout out. No IUP love. I was sad to see it.
Conspiracy.
I'm there, man.
Get the tinfoil hat.
I'm ready. Kirk Herbstreit should know IUP, man. One of the best D2 programs in the country for sure. But guys, that's about it for Thursday Night Football recap. Other than Eric, can we drop Miles Sanders now? 2 for 5, -5 through the ground, and then 2 for 15 through the air.
Yeah, I mean he's pretty close to being, welcome to Dumpsville, right? If there's anyone out on your wire that is, a lottery ticket, if a Keaton Mitchell is still out there for some reason, right? Like definitely want to go with an upside. He being Miles Sanders is very much so in that cut candidate list.
Okay. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and answer the people's questions in matchup management.
Who you got?
Matchup management.
Who's it gonna be?
Who's it going to be? We tell you that in matchup management. And guys, we are joined by a very special guest for today's segment, a man who was once a big time, and I mean big time, country music playlist curator. He's now an NFL and college football betting analyst over at The Athletic and a data charter with FTN Data. Jay, what's up, man? Thanks so much for joining us.
What's going on, guys? I appreciate it. I wasn't sure where you were going with that at first, but yeah, that's something that we that came out the last time it was on the show. But I appreciate you guys having me on. I always enjoy doing anything with you.
Absolutely. Jay, I have to ask, I don't know if you checked out the New Music Friday out there on the streets, but we have a collaboration with Bailey Zimmerman and the Jonas Brothers. Have you checked it out, and thoughts on that collab?
I have not. I'm going to have to check it out. Send it to me after the show, and I'll check it out.
You got it, man. Looks like there's some love in the chat for Jay already.
Albert.
From Albert.
Always.
Dave.
Toronto Dave.
Shout out Toronto area.
Let's go. And Rushman saying about last night's game, I watched replays of beat Bobby Flay instead of that game.
Yeah,
Jay,
I watched the Loki. I watched it back and forth, but
okay.
I made sure I watched the Loki season 2 finale while the game was going on.
Yeah, I have the double TV stacked one on top of the other, and I started Ford versus Ferrari. Didn't get through it all, but it was a good change of pace. I felt kind of a slower building movie, kind of felt like that game as well. So
I will say I had an embarrassing amount of players playing in the game last night.
No.
In one league, I had to start Jonathan Mingo because T. Higgins isn't going to play this week, and my other wide receiver 3 was Puka, who's not playing. So I figured, you know what? Let's just throw a guy on Monday night. The Bears are a decent matchup. Maybe he'll catch a touchdown, and yeah. But I did start Tonta Foreman, which makes me he had a very good game, so I'll take that.
There we go, man. There we go. Let's get some questions here, Jay, if you have a minute. I think we have some people in the chat.
Actually,
I
gotta go.
It is your day off too, man.
It is.
Oil change. What was on the agenda for today?
Went and got an oil change, and apparently I had some. The front headlight was out, so changed that as well. And went to the chiropractor, got all aligned. And I told Eric that yesterday, and he said, you have to do the show while you're getting adjusted at the chiropractor. But Fridays they close at 2, so if next time, maybe if we can do it on a day that they're open, I'd do it. I wouldn't care.
Only other place you haven't hit up today, the DMV, man.
Right.
Make your day a little
gotta hit
better.
up Home Depot, Bed Bath and Beyond. Nice little weekend,
Right. Bed Bath Beyond doesn't exist anymore. They're done.
Oh, they're in the beyond.
Yes. Yeah. Mags, do they have the DMV over in the UK? And if so, is it a better place than it is in America? Because it fucking sucks here.
No, there's not really like a DMV that you're physically allowed to go and visit. You kind of have to. Like I'm originally from Northern Ireland, and like we just invented like the wheel last month. It was really big breakthrough for us. And we're working on Fire. We'll get there eventually. Like anything you want to do in Northern Ireland goes through sending like physical, actual letters to people. Still, it's crazy. So I would actually kill for a DMV that I could go and visit rather than waiting 3 weeks for someone in a building in the middle of nowhere to reply back to me saying I've accidentally filled this form in wrong.
Fair enough, man. We got Derek in the chat, guys. He's saying he's in a 10-team half-point PPR 2 flex league. He was just offered T. Higgins from McLaurin. Risky, but he likes Higgins' playoff schedule more. He's 7-2. His other flex options right now are Mostert, Hollywood Brown, and Tank Dell. Jay, how are you feeling about this? Can you give up Scary Terry, who's been consistent for the upside of T. Higgins?
I agree that the playoff matchups are better for T. Higgins over McLaurin because especially quarterback. Where is it? Let me look. I was pulling up my list. They play. Where is it? The Rams, the Jets, and San Francisco is who the Commanders have. So that's a pretty tough. Although Cincinnati's isn't that much better with Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City. So, it is risky, but if you're in a good spot, I think it's worth the risk because the upside of T. Higgins can never get healthy. If if we finally have Joe Burrow healthy, the upside for T. Higgins, we saw it on what was it, Monday night that they played, Monday or Sunday night. It's much higher, and I think McLaurin, the floor is about the same. So I like the move if you can afford to take it, which it's 7-2. It looks like it. Yeah, I would go for it.
Eric, how do you feel about it? We had Pope on the program on Tuesday night. He called T. Higgins a potential league winner. That was before this latest injury popped up, though.
Yeah, I'm with Jay here, right? For me, especially in the context of this team and this league, like you're talking about your flex spot. Yes, Terry McLaurin has been plenty steady, but if you can get that wide receiver one upside into that flex spot, especially in a short league, a 10-teamer, right? Like getting those elite weeks, those boom weeks is really the difference maker in these shorter leagues. So we'll have to navigate the injury a little bit. It doesn't sound like it's going to be anything that is going to put his fantasy playoffs in jeopardy. So I'll go with the upside in Higgins.
Okay, Mags, where do you fall on this question here? I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like I'm torn because I love the upside of Higgins, but it's really hard to stomach with the injury concerns.
I'm going to lead the other side here. I'm actually going to go Terry McLaurin, and not. I wouldn't pick McLaurin every single time here, but just looking at the other options here, I think Mostert you're going to start most weeks because he offers the most upside there. But then you've got guys like Hollywood Brown and Tank Dillon there. They're kind of boom bust guys anyway in their own right. So I'm thinking you might have some weeks where you look at your matchup and go, actually, I am quite heavily favored to win here. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to start Terry McLaurin and get that kind of safe floor with him. And then other weeks where you need that kind of higher upside, you might throw in a Hollywood Brown, like Kyler Murray's back, or you might start a Tank Dell with CJ Stroud absolutely balling.
Yeah, I don't love the rest of season schedule for McLaurin, but we know this is the team that's going to have to throw a shit ton. They have no defense at all. I mean, they're already leading the league in passing attempts. So I think you make a very valid point. Apologies, Derek, that we're a little all over the place on that one. But, I think it really comes down to a personal decision. Can you take on the risk? And being in a 10-team league, I think it lessens that risk a little bit for you if you do want to do it. Here's another question from Amister. It looks like he just lost T this week. Should he be starting Devin Singletary or Irwin in his flex? Eric, how we feel about it, man? I have Devin Singletary as my sit of the week at the running back position. I think he's a trap like last week. Can you talk me into him? It is over Trenton Irwin, which also does not feel great.
Yeah, I'm going Singletary here, right? Like obviously he got his audition last week of being, the primary back, at least the primary back that wasn't kicking field goals for the Houston Texans, and he didn't exactly perform all that well. To be fair to him, facing a very tough Tampa Bay run front, this week against Cincinnati, it should be incrementally easier. But if nothing else, like I'm very worried about Trenton Irwin's ability to step in and fill T. Higgins' role in this offense, specifically against a very tough and getting stronger Texan secondary. Right, Derek Stingley was activated. At least they opened his 21-day window. He has since then reported limited and full practices the last 2 days. If he gets to full again today, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see him out there, and that's going to make for a long day in the office for Trenton Irwin. So I'll go with the Singletary side, but it might not be pretty.
And Mags, does this change at all with Romeo Doubs also an option here? He was great last week. It got you the double-digit PPR points, but a little banged up this week as well, it looks like.
Yeah, Romeo Doubs is definitely a more intriguing option than Irwin. I think a common mistake people make is they give the same kind of advantage to a wide receiver that they would give to a running back if somebody goes down. Generally, what you'll see if a running back is injured, the replacement comes in and gets the majority of those carries. It doesn't work the same with wide receivers. If T. Higgins is not playing, Trenton Irwin will not see T. Higgins' targets. What you're just going to see is those targets probably funneled into other areas. You might see Irv Smith Jr. get more of a tick. You might see Joe Mixon get more of a tick. I don't see Irwin getting the targets that T. Higgins would get. So I see that as a little bit of a trap. Demario Douglas, on the other hand, he has looked pretty good and he looks like a genuine option. So I wouldn't even be considering Irwin at all, to be honest. I would actually have Singletary or Douglas.
Okay. Jay, split the difference here. Where do we go? Devin Singletary, I think the one encouraging thing is the Bengals earlier in the season were leaking points to the running back position, still averaging over 5 yards per carry against them. However, this is a player in Devin Singletary has not hit double-digit PPR points all season.
Yeah, and the Bengals defense has been a lot better against the run the past few weeks. Yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't consider Irwin at all. It would be between Douglas and Singletary. And, in that situation, traditionally, you think the running back's floor would be a little safer. But with Singletary, it's honestly just as low as it is for Douglas. So I'm going to start Demario Douglas in this situation. Way higher upside and honestly a similar floor as well. In a good matchup. The Colts can put up points. So, it could be a sneaky shootout with two ugly offenses.
So, Amister, you're waking up early. You're watching that Germany game. Mags, have you been to any of these United Kingdom or Germany games before?
Yeah, sadly not be able to make it over to Germany. I'm a Chiefs fan as well, so I'd love to be able to make it over, but just not available for. I'm a teacher, and obviously getting over to Germany on a Sunday, getting back to work on a Monday, just pretty much impossible. But I was able to make it to the Vikings Saints game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last year, which was an absolute brilliant. The stadium is first. It's the best stadium I've ever been in personally. Like just first class experience. Absolutely loved it. Looking forward.
The energy in those games looks just unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's not like your traditional games. Like it doesn't quiet down ever.
Yeah,
like there's no real home team. I know they have a home team technically, but it's just a sea of different jerseys and colors, and everyone's there for like a great time. I loved it. Yeah, I can't wait to go back to more.
Hell yeah. I'm so happy the NFL has been doing more of this. It's continuing to grow the game. And it's honestly a treat waking up in the morning, grab your morning beer, your breakfast beer, have a little rip and start your day with some football. I absolutely love it. So I hope you guys do as well.
Those of us with kids are already up anyway. So I'd rather just sit on the couch and watch some football while I'm, sitting with my kids.
Yeah, we even had our first ever just 2 years ago, and continued last year with our first ever UK fantasy football meetup as well. We had Bob Long fly out. It was awesome. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's get to Mateo's question here, guys. He got offered David Montgomery for JSN and Christian Kirk. His RB2 right now is Najee, so he could use a little bit of help. My goodness, Jay, this one's tough because Kirk has been so steady. I don't mind giving up JSN, but Kirk is really a tough piece to trade with.
I'll be honest with you, it's not that tough for me. I know Kirk has been a lot better than most people have anticipated, but those numbers have come with Zay Jones on the sideline, and for some reason, the games this year when Zay Jones played, Christian Kirk went from the number 1 option to the number 3 option. And honestly, the reason it's not so hard for me is one. The Seahawks have a fantastic schedule for the rest of the season for wide receivers and a playoff schedule as well. Let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, Philadelphia, Tennessee. Oh, no, that's that. Yeah, Philadelphia, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh. So those are some great matchups for wide receivers. David Montgomery is the piece that I want here. While I do still think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a ton of touches, we saw they want to run the ball. They're able to run the ball very well. They got a great offensive line, and he's the guy on the goal line. He's the guy that's going to get the ball between the 20s. So David Montgomery, I've been trying to trade for him because I think people are forgetting when he was on the field just how good he's been this season.
Yeah, I apologize. I mispronounced that trade. It is Dave Montgomery and JSN for Christian Kirk. So I think that kind of leans me on the Montgomery and JSN side as well. Eric, where do you fall?
Yeah, I'll stick with the crowd here, right? The idea of upgrading from Najee Harris to David Montgomery at your RB2 is a place that I want to go to. I'll ask the question, how dependent are you on Christian Kirk? Are you using him every single week? Maybe that's something to consider. But JSN, he's the rare wide receiver handcuff, right? We talked about it a little bit earlier with Irwin. I think the exception to that rule is the Seahawks, because they just so uniformly utilized two wide receivers that if either of the guys in front of him go down, he just steps up into this huge role, right? So he's a nice lottery ticket, and you get a pretty considerable upgrade at RB2.
Mags, any difference in opinion from you?
I mean, yeah, I think we misread it at first, and we were happy to go, yeah, give JSN and Kirk for Montgomery. So now it's Montgomery and JSN for Kirk. Yeah, absolutely. Slam dunk. That's an easy one, I think.
There we go, Mateo. We appreciate the question, man. Hope you subscribe to the channel. Come back and hang out with us again. And here we got George Play in the chat. What's up, George? Thanks for joining us again today on Your Feel Good Friday. Hey, guys, choose 2 wide receiver and 1 flex from Deontay Johnson, Chris Olave, Tank Dell, Keaton Mitchell, and Leonard Fournette. Jay, I'm coming to you first, my man. Where are we going for George?
Well, this one's pretty easy, to be honest with you. Keaton Mitchell, I don't know if he's practiced today, but apparently he pulled a hamstring in practice this week, and the chance he might not play. But even so, they got a 3-headed monster with Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. He would be more of a dart throw. Deontay and Olave, no question. And Nico Collins isn't practicing either. Tank Dell has already, become a weapon. If he's going to absorb those targets potentially in this offense, I'm going Deontay, Olave, Dell. You can't trust Fournette. Like I don't mind him as a bench stash because if something happens to Moss or anything like that, if he steps in, gets some goal line work and gets he could be a decent flex play, but you can't trust him this week.
Mags, any additional input from you?
I mean, George, there's a reason you wrote those names in that order, right? You know.
Absolutely. Eric, do you have any? I don't even know if I need to ask you because I feel like this one is a slam dunk.
Yeah, I mean, shout out George. Like you put the players in the correct order, right? Like your intuition is leading you in the right direction, so trust it.
There we go. We appreciate you, George, as always, man. It looks like we got a new face in the chat today. Greg, what's up, Greg? Thanks so much for joining us, man. He says, so I'm 8-1 in a 12-man PPR league, and I just lost Dallas Goedert. Would have to start Musgrave. I got offered Kelsey and Pierce for my Swift. And my other RBs are Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, and Gus Edwards. Oh, my God. I think I'm sprinting and accepting this. I don't know how we can't be.
Yeah.
Pause the show. Just pause it. Go accept that trade and then come back and we can talk about it. Because even without Pierce, like I'm doing Swift for Kelsey 10 times out of 10, especially with the other running backs.
Yeah. Kelsey is still a top 12 player to me, man. And like, if you ever, for some reason, need to move off him or you can move off Goddard at this point, like you're going to get a shit ton in return. So I think this one's a slam dunk. Eric, is there any hesitancy from you giving away Swift, who has been a certified RB2 so far this season?
In a vacuum, no. Like I very clearly want the Kelsey Pierce side of this. In the context of your roster, like it puts you in a position where you're depending on Najee Harris or Gus Edwards, who is also in that 4-way committee, right? Jay, you didn't mention Lamar Jackson, arguably the most mobile quarterback as part of that rotation, right? So like I think you have enough guys to kind of bridge that gap and you're getting the better value with Kelsey, but I never really feel great sending out RB depth this time of year. So I'm still clicking the button, but I'll have some feels about it for sure.
Mags, how many?
Go ahead, Jay. Something else in. I was going to say, actually, I do the mailbag I'm in the mailbag rotation for The Athletic, and I had a question about Gus Edwards this week. So I would actually see if you could add Gus Edwards to the deal and upgrade Pierce because Gus Edwards is this run that he's been on, I'm not one of those guys that's like, you take this play away and this guy doesn't do that good, but it's been a little fluky for Gus Edwards. Week 7, he had a 180-yard reception, an additional 9 points in PPR leagues. He has 1 or fewer targets in 6 of 8 games. Week 8, he had 3 touchdowns. That's not going to happen again. Week 9, last week, he had 2 touchdowns on 5 touches. That's not going to happen. So these big games aren't sustainable for Gus Edwards, and there's a lot of people that are hyped on him right now. So I would be trying to sell high, and whether it's adding him to this deal to upgrade Pierce or another deal, Edwards is somebody who I'm looking to get away from.
Okay, Mags, how many warm beers did this guy give this motherfucker to be able to get Kelsey like this?
Yeah, that's what we call a gallon of beers over here. Like that's a hell of a lot. Like I mean, you've got Goddard going down. You've got a blank space in your team. You got to put Kelsey in, right?
There we go. We got one from Brad. Greg, we appreciate the question, man. Hope you subscribe, come back and hang out with us again. We got Brad here in the chat. Hey guys, I'm at 4-5, still easily in the playoff contention. Would you trade Raheem Mostert and Justin Jefferson for Derrick Henry, T. Higgins, and Jacoby Myers? His other wide receivers here are Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, and Marquise Brown. Mags, I'm coming right back to you. How do you feel about this one?
I don't see. I'm trying to figure out why you would give away Justin Jefferson now. He's just about to come back, right? And
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert is what, running back 2 right now?
Pretty
I know
close.
Devon Echan is coming back, but Mostert's been excellent with or without him. T. Higgins, bit of a risk. Myers, who knows what's going to happen now? We've got a new look team there.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry's looked pretty good, right? Derrick Henry's been okay. I think you keep Justin. How do you trade Justin Jefferson? What am I talking? You don't trade Justin Jefferson. What are you doing?
Not now. Not after you just held him for a month.
Well, I know it's Josh Dobbs, but it's Justin Jefferson, man. Come on.
The only thing that I will say, being a 4-5, if you're at that point, you might not be able to wait on Justin Jefferson. I was one of those that said Jefferson may not come back. Well, it looks like I'm wrong, because it looks like there's a very good chance he could come back. If you are in a win now situation, I could see trading Jefferson, but honestly, I would want more than this. T. Higgins isn't playing this week.
Yeah.
The Raiders aren't going to throw the ball as much with AOC under center. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play defense. And Derrick Henry, he's been solid. He's been good, but he's not been this dominant force. So, I understand trading Jefferson. I would much rather not, but I think you can get more for him, even if you're in a place that you're in a win now situation.
Derrick Henry hasn't even been Raheem Mostert.
Right. Yeah, which is
Right.
crazy to think. But yeah, I'm there with you. Let's do a couple rapid fires and get these out of the way so we can get Jay out of here in case he's got to get to the DMV before that closes. George saying, I'm like Greg, 8-1. I lost Goddard. Who could make more of an impact rest of the season for him, Cade Otton or Njoku? Also, should I trade Kenneth Walker for Bijan or Montgomery? Eric, it's a two-parter. I'm going to give you the first part. Rest of the season, who do you prefer, Cade Otton or David Njoku?
I prefer David Njoku of those two. We'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson and his shoulder. Right now, it seems like the trajectory is his shoulder is fine against bad teams, and it starts to bother him against good teams. But if he's out there, like he very clearly likes to target David Njoku. He's got a long history with the Texans with regard to supporting tight ends, right? So I'll go with Njoku under the presumption that we see Watson for the majority of the remaining games.
Okay. And Mags, how do you feel about Kenneth Walker for Bijan or Montgomery? You're making one of those trades?
Yeah, that's a close one, isn't it? I mean, here's one thing I do know. Arthur Smith is the devil, right?
Yes.
So you need to stay away from Bijan, right? Sadly, as much as that pains me to say. So for me, it's really between Kenneth Walker and David Montgomery here. Man, that's a bit of a coin flip, right? Montgomery has the threat of Gibbs, who's been playing very, very well. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet not really living up to what we thought. I think I might stick with Kenneth Walker there,
Jay, split the difference here.
So it's between. I'm actually kind of a little more out on Kenneth Walker. I'm not trying to be contrarian or anything like that. But and the only reason is Charbonnet seems to be playing more and more. And I do, like you were saying, I do charting for FTN, and I did the Seattle run game, and Kenneth Walker just doesn't look as good as he has. Charbonnet, he's looking better, honestly. He's at the past 2 weeks over 50% of the snap percentage. So I really think this is going to be much more of a committee than it has been to start the season. Between Bijan and Montgomery, the right decision, the safe decision, the right decision is Montgomery. I am a sucker for Bijan Robinson. I was touting him all off season. I actually, our good friend Shane Barrett, he's in my home league. We just made a trade. I just traded for Bijan in my home league.
Wow.
It's, sometimes you got to take the risk, and the upside for Bijan is RB1 overall. And his three matchups, if you play weeks 15 through 17, are Carolina, Chicago, and Indianapolis, which are fantasy points allowed to running backs number 2, number 5, and number 6. I really feel like even if Bijan just gets just a little more touches, he doesn't have to get what he should be getting, which is about 80%. But if he gets even just a little more involved, whether it's Arthur Smith getting fired, whether, he did shave his mustache, so maybe he smartened up just a little bit. I just, you got to take big swings sometimes. And if you want to take that big swing, especially at 8-1, I like Bijan. My head says Montgomery. My heart says Bijan.
Okay. Eric, can you help us out at all here? Because I don't think we've given George a very
haven't done
concrete
anything.
open.
Yeah, I will follow Jay's heart as I often do, and I'll go with Bijan here as well.
Oh my
right?
God, you guys are throwing the nut sacks on the table today. Holy
Well,
wow.
so that's the thing, right? Like
That's why we have
we're
kids,
talking
right?
about an 8-1 team, right? Like if it takes a little while for Bijan to ramp up, you've got some leeway with regard to your record overall, but also despite the dumpster fire that is the Atlanta Falcons offense, Bijan's still RB13 on the season, right? Like it's not like you're just completely diving down into the pits of a zero floor player, right? This is a guy that is clearly dynamic and athletic with the ball in his hands, and he's producing well enough, not up to the expectation of where most people drafted him, but he's still contributing, and he's doing so without anywhere near the workload or the type of opportunity that we were expecting, right? So like if he just sees incremental gains there, he's got the potential to really push this 8-1 team over the top for a title.
That's the reason I'm not out on Bijan. Is it's his disappointment isn't because of him. It's not because of his performance. When he's on the field, he's getting it done. So if I was going to say he's in the mailbag, I had a question about Bijan as well. He's out carrying him. Let me see. Yards per carry. Bijan is 5.02. Algier is 3.2. He's averaging over 5 yards a carry, 7 yards per catch. Wow. He's getting over 5 targets a game already. So it's all there. It just, it's one of those situations where, if he just gets just a little more work, man, he could potentially be a league winner. He could fall flat on his face and, I regret the trade, but, you got to take big swings.
Okay. All right. 2 for Bijan. I would probably go with Mags. I probably would go Kenneth Walker, but I think I'm just a little less risk averse really at this point in the season. But I totally
You'll learn. Us, that have been playing for fantasy a long time. I get it, and it works out sometimes. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I made some risky moves last year and it didn't. So
I'll go ahead and take this one. Amos Sturge is asking, would you guys put Samuel or Woods over Douglas? I would not. I don't trust Robert Woods as far as I can throw him. He's been banged up. And Curtis Samuel, I hope that's Curtis Samuel, and I imagine it's not Debo, but he's banged up too. Yeah. So nothing really to add there. Jay, we'll get you out of here with this one, man. Would you trade Gibbs to get Hawkinson? He has Taysom Hill at tight end at the moment. His other running backs are Bijan, Jacobs, Brees, Najee, Roschon, and Charbonnet.
This is tough because it's a fair value.
Yeah.
And normally, I would want to get that advantage at tight end. Taysom, I don't think he's going to keep up what he's doing, but he's been decent enough and he's got the upside. Like Eric said, at this point in the season, I really don't want to give up my running back depth because you trade away that piece and then Jacobs go down. And all of a sudden you got Bijan, Brees, and that's pretty much it. Man, that's tough. I think I would stick with Gibbs. It makes sense because, I'm still sticking with Gibbs. I know it's really a toss up, but me personally, I would prefer to have the running back depth.
Mags, is there another trade you can recommend? Maybe Smokey here. I see Najee and Charbonnet and say, could I maybe do a package deal and get Hawkinson? Is there something like that you'd be interested in?
I mean, what I need to tell you is, the past 5 weeks, Taysom Hill is quarterback 12. That's what I really need to tell you. And that's not that. Why would they change it? I know I was like, oh, the Taysom Hill is it's going to start going to. Why? I understand why, if you're at the Saints, why would you change it? The guy's absolutely crushing it. I think this might continue even to the end of the season. So Taysom is obviously very risky, but when we just spoke about it, you got to take big swings, and there's no bigger swing right now than Taysom Hill, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So getting Gibbs, he's he's a big swing. Hawkinson, I don't know what it's going to look like with Josh Dobbs. Like, I might just roll with Taysom Hill, you know.
I kind of think you're right there, Mags, because he's like an anomaly. I don't think any of us really want to play him, but the guy is a weapon. He is an absolute weapon. I would love to see what he could do in a real offense that isn't run by Pete Carmichael, who's been there since 2010. But I love Taysom Hill. I love what he's doing. Eric, are you okay with rolling Taysom rest of the season?
I am not. No, I don't. I don't think that we're going to see him lead the New Orleans backfield in rushing attempts.
You
every
shut
single
your
week.
mouth, Eric.
Come
Right.
on.
I hope you're right,
there are
because I have a
couple
lot of
guys-
Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara is. I mean, he is in the head coach's and GM's office right now, banging on the desk, saying, "You better not give this man more touches than me." But if nothing else, I think like Jay said, the trade is fair enough. I would think with how well Gibbs is performing, you might be able to shop him around and get a little bit more than Hawkinson. But I'm assuming that you're addressing a roster specific need here, so I don't mind that. Yes, I said I don't like bottoming out my running back depth this time of year, and that remains true. But looking at the remaining guys, like you still have a pretty good rotation in your running back room, and you have guys that have clear and largely pretty available handcuff options, right? So if you click the button on this trade, make sure you go out and get Zamir White. Make sure you go out and get Algier if he's available.
Well,
Michael
Bijan's a
Carter, right?
handcuff.
Yeah, like Bijan is the handcuff to Tyler Algier, so go scoop up Algier off your wire. Like there are ways that you can kind of mitigate that that concern with your RB depth, and if you're plugging a hole in your lineup, I don't mind getting Hawkinson in this deal.
I love it. Guys, stick around. We're going to get into some Sure Things sleepers of the week, but first we're going to let Jay go. Jay, how can we best support you, FTN, at The Athletic, everything you're doing this season, my friend?
Yeah, so find me on Twitter at GMenJ. Like you said, I'm writing over at The Athletic. I'm doing data charting over at FTN. Check out my work, my articles over at The Athletic. And then with FTN, the product where it's amazing. We have an amazing team. Shout out to Mike Tallis, this guy who puts it all together, and Frank Brank. They're basically all the tools over at FTN are based off of the data that we do. And literally Sunday night as the games are ending, we're on there, we're charting the data. So it's all, it's really incredible. Just go check that out. And just follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it.
There you go. Make sure you follow Jay on Apple Music. I saw Jay slid into my Apple Music.
I switched over to Apple Music. Yep. That bundle, man, trying to save some money.
There you go. Make sure you follow Jay on Twitter, Apple Music, no longer Spotify. But thanks so much for joining us, Jay. We'll see you next time, my friend. And guys, let's go ahead and jump into some Sure Things sleepers of the week.
It's the Sure Thing. Sleepers of the week.
All right, Sure Things sleepers of the week. I gotta bounce back, guys. I came in last week, Eric, and I was bitching at the fantasy gods because they were not good to me. Last week, I just made a bad call with Brandon Cook, so I apologize, guys. It was a great matchup. I let you down. I'm trying to bounce back. So I'm going to give it to Mags here. I'm going to give it to you to crack us open here. And I also need to ask this other question. I'm sorry that we're getting into a little bit of a British history and a little bit of a British geography question, but do you have beaches out there? Do you have beaches in the UK?
We have hundreds and hundreds of beautiful.
It's an island, my guy.
Well, I know it's an island, but like I never see it's kind of colder over there, isn't it? So like I never see people beaching that much. Like what is the beach vibe like?
Well, a lot of the beach vibe is kind of where, like, I don't know what you guys call them. We call them like junkies, right? Kind of like a lot of junkies, a lot of drug addicts, a lot of like, those type of folks kicking about. But when it's there's one of my favorite websites is the one by a Scottish guy, and anytime it gets over, like, I think it's 13 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's not that hot. It's just a website called Tops Off ? As soon as it hits 13 degrees Celsius, it just says tops off. Like, that's the kind of thing we're dealing with in the UK here. With this, as soon as it's even slightly warm, people are flooding to the beach. So yeah, plenty of beaches, plenty of opportunity to go. I'm not really a beach guy though, so I don't go to.
Okay, there we go. I got to make it over there. I'm going to be honest, man. It's on the bucket list. I've been chatting about it. I know there's some NFL games over there. I'm hoping they maybe
Yeah.
take NASCAR over there someday as well. That would be
Ooh,
brilliant.
sure.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Eric, have you ever been to the UK?
I have not. No, I have not made the jump over the pond.
we've got the fantasy football collective. You know, you guys can come over, hop along,
Draft
hang out
night.
with Bob Long, and yeah, we could draft Scott
go.
Fishbowl live draft. We did that
Draft
last
night
year-
out. We
last
could
year.
do a
Wade
draft night out.
DNO.
We
the
could do it.
UK.
Yeah, there we
Alright.
go.
Yeah.
There we
Get
go.
into the lab. Make this happen.
Yeah.
Mags, I want to come to you with our short thing sleeper, man. Who is someone outside the top 30 running backs or wide receivers that we can be targeting, or someone outside the top 15 quarterbacks and tight ends who could be serviceable? That's all we need is serviceable points here in week number 10.
Yeah, I've got one like just outside the top 30. I also have one absolutely ridiculous one that I want to talk
Yeah.
about. Well, I'll get to the first one. The first one is a guy that I absolutely love, and he's kind of doing exactly what I expected him to do, and he's really coming on this stage of the season. It's Jaxon Smith-Njigba over at the Seattle Seahawks. He's going up against the Washington Commanders, who are awful at defending wide receivers. They're bottom 5 defense against the wide receivers. They're giving up nearly 40 points per game against wide receivers currently, which is absolutely horrendous. Now, I do know that, you know, he has some competition there, obviously, with DK Metcalf and with Tyler Lockett. But at the start of the season, before a snap was played, I made a bold prediction, which was by the end of the year, Jaxon Smith-Njigba will be Geno Smith's #1 target.
Oh.
And it's happening. We are seeing it happen right in front of us. The last 3 weeks, he's been comfortably averaging 10 points per game. He's been averaging 13 points per game, actually. And we can see the tide turning ever since the Seahawks had their bye week in week number 5. He was at 53% snap count. Now, last week, all the way up at 82%. So Jaxon Smith-Njigba really coming on. And it's working, right? He's been playing really, really well. I don't see why they would stop giving him the ball. DK Metcalf looking a bit flat, right? Jaxon Smith-Njigba.
I know.
He's coming on.
I like the call here, man. And DK missed practice yesterday. He did practice on Wednesday, so it might have just been a veteran rest day, or he might have tweaked something.
Yeah.
So something to kind of be monitoring heading into the weekend. Eric, how are you feeling about JSN though this week against the Commanders, which is like death taxes and start your fucking receivers against the Commanders this season?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, a lot of that story has been to do with Emmanuel Forbes, their rookie cornerback, and he's been kind of in and out of lineups, or at least in and out of games over these last few weeks. But he's projected to be in there again this week, and if nothing else, you know, JSN, he plays a ton of slot, right? Like I think people look at Tyler Lockett as more of the slot option there, and that's not really been the case this year. So that also means that JSN is going to see Benjamin St-Juste. This is a guy that is giving up a ton of yards by slot corner standards. So, you know, he'll still be down there in the pecking order. JSN will, but you know, his opportunities, he should have a pretty good chance at hauling those in. And obviously, you know, his yards after the catch ability is elite for a rookie wide receiver. So don't mind the call at all. He can get there in a big way on a pretty limited amount of targets, you know.
All right, let's ride with JSN. Eric, who are you riding with, my friend?
So I am going to first make an appeal that we grade on a curve here, because my Khalil Shakir call last week netted 9.4 points. I think that's a pretty admirable return for how far down the rankings that we reach. I will let you deliberate on that while I talk about Noah Brown, my pick for this week. He is right around wide receiver 40. Look, this is pretty simple, right? Like, last week, he caught 6 passes for like 150 yards and a touchdown. So we can just project him to do that every week, right? It's case closed. So the thing with Noah Brown specifically is he's the Texans starting slot receiver, right? Like, I know Tank Dell filled in that role very well while Noah Brown was on IR to begin the season. But since he's returned, he's almost exclusively running out of the slot. And that means that he is going to be in the coverage of Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton, he plays the Cincinnati slot corner on TV, but this guy's a safety, right? Like, this is the guy that is allowing a ton of catches. You know, basically everything that's going to be in Noah Brown's catch radius, you can just about project him to haul in this week. And the added potential for Nico Collins to be gone. I mean, that's just, a handful of additional looks going Noah Brown's way. So I think he's got a pretty good look at getting past 10 points. I obviously won't project him out for another 27 spot, but he's got a role to play in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, we know no Damian Pierce probably, no Nico Collins probably as well. So they need playmakers there, Mags. Are you interested in Noah Brown? Because he was on my short list for one of my short thing sleepers this week.
Yeah, I love it. I think especially whenever you're missing a couple of guys in there, Noah Brown's someone that, I mean, he's obviously struggled a little bit to stay healthy, but actually when he's on the field, Noah Brown's an electric player. And with somebody like CJ Stroud, who's just on an absolute hot streak throwing the ball, I expect this game to be a shootout as well. So I think Noah Brown can comfortably reach 10 points, or 9.4 points maybe.
Okay, love it.
9.7, let's go.
Before we get to Mag's super deep sleeper, I'm going to go with a little more surface level of a guy. Romeo Doubs, baby. Give me some Romeo Doubs this week. And this is a wide receiver who has been a lot better than I think people think. I know we haven't seen the production as of late, but 11.4 PPR points average this season, 6.8 targets per game. We don't know if Christian Watson is 100% healthy. He was a full go at practice on Wednesday and Thursday, so we're expecting him back. But this is a guy who only had 4 healthy games all season, so I don't know if I can really trust Christian Watson to be out there for this full game. And a wide receiver has scored PPR points or double-digit PPR points against the Steelers in every single game this season. They leak the points. It's been getting a little better with Joey Porter Jr. coming on. Levi Wallace not playing as much on the outside. But Doubs is a technician. This is the profile that the Steelers really struggle with, these route technicians. And I think Matt LaFleur is going to get him involved in this one enough to break that barrier. Any thoughts, guys, on Romeo Doubs, or am I chasing smoke here? Give it to me, Eric. What do you want? What do you have to say? Put me down.
No, look, I think Doubs he's in a fine spot overall, right? And candidly, I think his likelihood to get to 10 plus points is pretty solid. The thing that you didn't account for in your analysis is that Jordan Love is absolute dog water, and I don't want to bank on anyone that is relying on his right arm.
That's fair. That's fair. Mags, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, if you want anyone to catch the ball further than 20 yards away from Jordan Love, you might be in a little bit of trouble. But the only thing I would...
The matchup's good, though.
The matchup is good. I'm wondering if Green Bay maybe take maybe ease off Jordan Love a little bit. Aaron Jones is back a little bit. The only thing I would worry about is how much opportunity do they give Jordan Love here? And do they kind of take the pressure off him a little bit, because he has been struggling a lot, and do they lean more on Aaron Jones or, God forbid, AJ Dillon?
Oh, jeez. Well,
Never.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we'll see what happens out there in Pittsburgh, man. I'm ready to go. Romeo Doubs out there too, available in over 60% of ESPN leagues. So I'll fire him up. I honestly do like JSN a little bit better, and I think Noah Brown probably has a little bit more upside if it is some of those Houston wide receivers out. But Max, I'm going to throw it back to you. Close out the show, man. Let's go deep as hell. What do you got for us?
So, right, this one is so deep that the list you sent me, this guy wasn't even on the list. He did not appear. There were 60 players on the list. He did not appear on there. He is playing against one of the worst teams, if not arguably the worst team in the NFL at defending wide receivers this year. He was his team's leading wide receiver last week as well, where he did score over 10 points. He is a crafty route runner, and there's a chance that the team's main target will be double teamed. I'm, of course, talking about the one, the only, Kyle Phillips, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you did it. You did it. We had a little Kyle Phillips love earlier on the show this week with Pope. He liked him as well. This is scary. This is a scary one, because I do like Will Levis in this matchup. This is a golden opportunity for Will Levis. But Eric, can you trust Kyle Phillips here? I guess we're not really trusting him, if he is a deep sleeper. But do you think he can get to that double-digit cliff once again?
Yeah, trust is a difficult word, right? Partially because I have daddy issues, but in terms of a deep dart throw, right? Like, I mean, Kyle Phillips is going to be out there. You know, he saw 50%. He had a 50% route participation last week. He is very much so locked in as the slot receiver. So that means that he's going to see a ton of easy in. That is the player that Tank Dell torched last week. That is the player that Noah Brown torched last week. That was an 87% catch rate on covering routes out of the slot. So look, I mean, they're going to need bodies. They can't just continue to pepper all of their targets to DeAndre Hopkins. So, you know, Phillips is going to be that nice release valve, and, you know, running routes against a guy that's allowing an 87% catch rate. Like, you stack up 3-4 catches and you're well on your way to 10 points.
And I think the great thing is just the matchup here, guys. Like we pointed out a couple weeks ago, but Tampa Bay, since their bye, has been awful, just awful on the defensive side. They've allowed the QB4 finish, the QB2, and the QB1 finish. The only person who didn't was Desmond Ridder. Didn't finish as a QB1 against him, and that was the game where he dropped the ball going in the end zone.
Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, and Drake London. So I like it. Honestly, I'm coming around to it. I expect a huge game from D-Hop and Will Levis, man. Like, let's honestly give this guy a little bit of flowers, averaging 7.4 yards per attempt. So he's getting chunk plays. And I know Kyle Phillips is generally the slot receiver that we think of, but maybe he can be used downfield a little bit more like he was last week. So don't hate the call there at all. Let's go ahead and get to Greg, and then we'll get out of here, guys. What defense would you guys drop, the Jets or the Steelers? He's trying to make that Kelsey trade we talked him into earlier in the show, but he needs to know what defense to drop. I like the Jets defense more this week against the Raiders, I think, Eric. But long term, the Steelers have some pretty okay matchups coming up. The Browns, I feel comfortable starting them there. Then they have the Cardinals. I probably wouldn't start them there, and the Bengals. But then Patriots, Colts, like it's a pretty good schedule for the Steelers going out. Who do you want to drop here?
I am absolutely dropping the Lurs. Look, I am a proponent for streaming defenses every single week, right? So, like, don't worry about what you do with your defense beyond week number 10. You've got a great one in the Jets for this matchup against the Raiders. And by and large, the Steelers are probably going to be sitting out on that wire when they have those good matchups down the stretch run, right? So the Jets are a fine one to hold on to down the stretch if you want, or if you want to mix it up and stream, there are plenty of viable options that will probably play it out better than the Steelers will down the stretch, just playing the matchups.
Okay. Mags, any difference in an opinion for you? Because the only thing I struggle with just a little bit, Bills, Dolphins are on the other side of Raiders here. So I think you're getting a great matchup here in week number 10, but then it is tough sledding.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Eric here. I'm happy to kind of take these defenses in and out. I mean, the Steelers one is kind of more of a, you've always got that, you know, TJ Watt, like, could explode and just win like a defense, like huge points on his own. You've got that with the Steelers, but kind of hard to trust both of these. I mean, you kind of want a better option than these two, probably.
Yeah. Great questions from Greg today, man. Thanks so much for joining us. And then we'll round out with a new face in the chat, KJ. What's up, KJ? Thanks so much for joining us, my man. Better spot start at RB2, Devin Singletary, Zach Charbonnet, or Leonard Fournette. Man, I don't want to start any of these guys. Fournette's out of the question for me right now until we see it. Charbonnet's hard to trust with Kenneth Walker there. Like, I think by default it has to be Devin Singletary, but it's really, really hard to trust a guy who just saw 15 touches and made 28 yards on them, Mags.
Yeah, I think, you have to kind of go Singletary. He's kind of the only one there that I think probably won't lay a goose egg, right? I think the other two have a chance to lay a goose egg. Singletary probably won't, so I suppose that's maybe the best you're looking for out of those three.
Okay. Eric, do you think Rashad Penny gets more run second half of the season? Because I don't at all. I even just dropped. I've been holding on to Kenneth Gainwell in a couple keeper leagues, and I just dropped him this week on the bye. Are you interested in holding Rashad Penny or Gainwell rest of the season?
I mean, more run, sure, right? Like, he's seen 11 and 3% of snaps in the 2 games that he's played. So, like, you know, just math, probably a bit more, but he's not a fantasy asset, right? Unless something happens to Swift, of course.
Brandon, half PPR, 100-yard bonus league, just got offered Devontae Adams and Ramondre Stevenson for Alvin Kamara. Thoughts? I'm not making this move. I'm staying packed with Alvin Kamara. I think you have the number one asset in this trade. Stevenson's been better. And I think if you're like really in a tough place where you might need a little depth, maybe this is okay, but it's just so risky to trust Mags. I don't want any part of this Raiders team outside of Josh Jacobs rest of the season.
No, you have to run with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is a guy that's missed quite a lot of the season. He's still running back 7 overall in PPR leagues. Like, yeah, I know it's half PPR, but I still think Kamara is the guy that you got to stick with here. He's the guy that's going to win you games. And Adams and Stevenson, they could actually lose you games potentially.
Yeah. Eric, wide receivers, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, D-Hop, Addison, Godwin, Myers. So you don't want to add another Raiders receiver. You already got one, and you have CMC. Like, I'm keeping that elite core together. Eric, are you as well?
Yeah, I mean, AK-47 and CMC is astonishing, right? You're not hurting at wide receiver, right? Like maybe you can make a case that you're trying to get like that top line guy. I don't think that Devontae Adams is that guy this year, right? So if you're hell bent on going and getting an elite receiver, like shop around Alvin Kamara and get like an actual elite receiver.
Hell yeah. We got Greg saying, just did the trade, boys. Appreciate
Get
the
it,
help.
Greg.
You are beauties. Let's go, Greg. Just want to shout out everyone in the chat today. A lot of new faces, a lot of familiar faces. Greg, KJ, Brandon, Smokey the Cat. I know we had Dave in here earlier, Amister. As always, we had Albert riding with us and Derek. So thank you guys all so much for checking out the show today. It's been a really, really fun one. And Mags, what a treat this was to have you for the entire program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, man. Tell us how we can best support you, not just throughout the remainder of this season, but into next year as well, my friend.
Yeah, well, thank you both so much. This was an absolute pleasure. Always great chatting to you guys, and anyone across the pod. It's always like a nice little treat from me as well. You know, I know you guys are like talking about the treat being talking to someone from the UK, but it's a treat for me as well talking to you guys too. So, yeah, come find me over on Twitter, over on X, whatever you want to call it, at Dynasty Hotseat for the podcast, at Hotseat Mags for the other crap that I put out as well. And if you want to follow me on YouTube as well, just search Dynasty Hotseat, where we're doing a weekly show, kind of like this as well. We're answering fan questions. If you want to jump in the chat on that show as well, hop in and we'll get to your questions as well. And yeah, thanks once again for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah, guys. Open up a new tab on YouTube. Go to Dynasty Hotseat and make sure you're following in and plugged in with Mags. And Eric, I need you to plug it one more time, man, because I've been riding with you guys here and there, and the green screens are cashing with college basketball season here.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I will not bury the lead here. Definitely follow Mags. Check out the Dynasty Hotseat. It is a certified inferno. It's a fun show.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, Seth, it has been an amazing start to the college basketball season. We just broke down tonight's slate for DraftKings, the big 2K to first prize pool out there. Our first core 4 of the season averaged 5.5x. Every single night that we're putting out prize picks, we are printing green screens. If you are into college basketball, or if you're just into making money, check us out on Green Screens Media on YouTube. You can see it barely there under my name. We've got a breakdown of tonight's slate. We're going to be dropping some best bets. We drop prize picks all the time. We drop core 4s in there. We are geared up for a huge college basketball season at Green Screens Media.
Let's get it. And I'm seeing some more questions come in. Guys, hang around afterwards and we'll answer those in the chat for you. But thank you so much for tuning in. Easiest way to support us here at IBT Media. Subscribe to the channel, come back, hang out with us again. And also check out the website, guys. So much good content over there for you. I just did a great piece on Joey P from Fantasy Pros. Released that earlier today, and it was a really good, inspiring piece. So we got the feel-good lifestyle advice. We got the fantasy sports and betting advice for you as well. Until next time, guys, I am Seth, and thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Keep it in between.